So some of you may be wondering, do I have enough coniferous trees in my personal collection? Now, the technical answer to that is yes, but in my mind, the answer to that question is no. So, what we're going to do today is go check out some coniferous trees at this place called Foxwillow Pines. Now, here's the thing. This is a nursery specializing in rare coniferous trees. It's a place where you can find things that you won't find at Lowe's or Home Depot or even some of the other family-owned garden centers, at least in my area here in northern Illinois. So we're going to go see if there's any potential bonsai material, not only rare trees, but maybe they have some old trees that have been, drifting around for a while, which may be good for a potential bonsai tree. And we're gonna go check it out. Now, the thing with this business is that it's closing down. I think the owners are retiring, and so unfortunately, I only found out about this place recently, and I think they're open for 2 more weeks. So if you're interested in going there, I think you have until the end of June. But we're gonna go take a look around, see what's there, see what kind of place this is, and hopefully we'll find an umbrella pine. I have, kind of a desire to buy an umbrella pine, which is not a true pine, and kind of screw around with that for a while. If they have a Pseudolarix amabilis, I'm gonna have to buy that Pseudolarix amabilis. It's a deciduous conifer, but we can kind of talk more about that stuff once we get there and kind of take a look around the nursery, see what's there. So I'm kind of in a rush because they close soon. So hopefully I'll make it and we'll take a look around, see what's there. So I'm gonna turn on that camera once we're there and at the actual nursery looking at the plants. So I'll see you soon. All right, so to start it off, we have some cedar, and I think there was good material in the cedars. I just wasn't particularly interested myself because I already have 2 seedlings. Common juniper, I think that's some kind of more drooping variety. And then we have some halfway dead pine trees and some other random conifers, but I didn't check the tags on a lot of this stuff because it seemed like common stuff. I was, really looking for a Pseudolarix or that Japanese umbrella pine, and those would have been really obvious. So I just ended up looking for stuff like this that could have had potential to be a bonsai tree. So I moved on, I looked at some of this shorter stuff, and they did actually have a very nice selection of dwarf spruce. So this one is a good one, and I'll show you some better ones later on. So if you're in the market for a dwarf spruce, this is a good place, and they're open for 2 more weeks, I think, so I guess hurry up and get one. And then I moved on to the pines because I really wanted to find a nice white pine. Unfortunately, a lot of this stuff is what I would call lollipop trees, where it just has a very thin branch or a thin trunk with a dense foliage pad on the end. And I just couldn't picture myself styling that into any reasonable framework for a bonsai tree. So I ended up just, looking over a lot of this stuff, and it just, wasn't really working for me. This one was interesting. I figured we could chop it back to the edge of that pot and use these branches to kind of, style a new apex. And I think this was an interesting variety. I don't know what exactly it was, but I ended up saying, it's just not speaking to me, so it would just be more effort than I'm willing to put into it. So I moved back around, and this pine, it had more branching on it, but the branches were very short and small, nothing we could really wire into anything reasonable. So in any ways, I think it was a black pine or some kind of pine species that I wasn't really interested in. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to get any of these either. So I moved on. I kept looking for some of these white pines, but like I said, a lot of this stuff was just kind of not as great as I would have wanted. I'm really looking for that perfect ratio of a thick trunk, a short tree, nice dense branches, and a lot of this stuff was just kind of wispy. Now this one was wispy, but I figured, that could be styled into probably something interesting. But I ended up getting this one because I figured we could turn that top part into a very large, elaborate deadwood feature, especially if we give it a twist and twist it around a little bit and style that single branch into an apex. Then I moved on to this pine, which looked interesting, but again, all the foliage was at the tips of the branches. It was kind of very, it was like that lollipop shape that I described. This one had a little bit more needles on it, but again, the branches were just so thin and wispy, I figured nothing really interesting would come of it. The branches, or not the branch, but the trunk didn't have too much taper to it either. This ginkgo was an interesting variety. I think that says what, Saratoga, Gingko Biloba. The leaf shape is bizarre, but again, I was looking for something that I could style into a nice bonsai tree. So that ginkgo just wasn't cutting it. This was a Korean pine, I think. Again, it was a little bit more dense, but a small seedling size, so I wasn't too interested in that. This was kind of an interesting variety of a fir, Abies concolor, but I just wasn't feeling that one either. And back around to these spruce. First, there was this pine, which had interesting root structure. Again, I think this is a Korean pine, $80 for the 3-gallon size, but, I don't know, it was interesting, but again, too wispy for me to want to screw around with. So I ended up taking a look at this one, which was a little bit, more vigorous, but again, the branch structure just wasn't there. So I moved back to these spruce, and again, this was a good spruce. I think I would have bought this if I was somebody else. It just wasn't the particular style I was looking to get once I saw that semi-cascade spruce. And then we have one here with kind of a twisted trunk. So I think if someone's looking for a nice dwarf spruce, these two are very good options. And of course, I left them at the nursery. I didn't buy them. So if you're interested, they're probably still there if you're in the area and want to check it out. And then I moved back to the pines. And this was an interesting, twin trunk pine, which I thought could have been an interesting concept. But again, I feel like the health of the tree wasn't there. I saw, the foliage on these, tips of the branches, and I just figured, I don't know, that's just not looking too vigorous for me. And even if it was healthy enough, just wiring those branches now that they're very thin and trying to get back budding would be a real uphill battle. This one looked a little better, although I think it was diseased. It was a red pine, and I think it was like a $175 for this. And I was, really thinking maybe this would be good. But once I saw that it was diseased, the needles were kind of falling off, and then it had, I think, a blight on the tips of some of these branches and some of these growth points. I figured, you know what? I don't know. I just don't want to screw around with that, so I ended up not buying this red pine. Although the potential of this being a, good bonsai tree, I don't know. I don't think it was there. Then this pine was, halfway decent, but I wanted to chop it kind of, in the middle where it had those very short branches, and those short branches wouldn't be able to be wired anytime soon. I didn't really have too many back branches, so I figured, you know what, this one just isn't working for me either. But I did end up buying this semi-cascade spruce and this kind of abstract looking pine, which I'm going to cut off the majority and just use that one bottom branch. But semi-cascade spruce, this is a variety of dwarf spruce, and I'm pretty much really excited about, styling this one. And then the pine tree is, cool as well, but those are the two plants that I bought on this particular visit. Okay, so bought those two trees, and the spruce is nice. Didn't see that earlier. I kind of had this feeling that I would find some kind of interesting spruce. I knew that if I didn't buy one in about a couple of months, I'd be thinking, man, I should have gotten a spruce. So just preemptively, I bought that to sedate my craving. But that spruce is very interesting, like a semi-cascade spruce. You don't really see something like that, and that's naturally already styled like that, so we're just gonna have to refine that over the years, but I'm pretty happy with that purchase. I noticed the pine has some disease on the needles, brown spots. That's probably a fungal disease, but I think we can hit it with azoxystrobin and probably a topical fungicide as well, get that taken care of, especially once we fertilize it, bring it back to a vigorous tree instead of something that's halfway dead. But I'll probably isolate it somewhere in a corner of a yard to hopefully mitigate the spread of that. But, you know, I don't know. I'm not super concerned about it, but it's in my trunk now, so we got to deal with it somehow. So that's what we ended up with today. Hopefully this will make, you know, some interesting material for the upcoming future, give me something interesting to style. Hopefully it'll turn out pretty good. And, you know, I look forward to hopefully, you know, having these trees survive and make interesting bonsai over the next decade. That's going to be it for now.